The desert stretched endlessly beneath a sky painted in crimson and gold, the dying sun casting long shadows across the plains. The wind carried whispers through the tumbleweeds, ghostly voices from a land that had buried too many secrets. At the edge of that barren world rode a man named Cade Mercer, a rancher with eyes hardened by drought, loss, and a lifetime of choices that carved scars deeper than any bullet ever could. His horse, Dust, breathed heavily beneath him, its flanks quivering from the long ride. Cade wasn't chasing cattle tonight. He was chasing something darker, something he couldn't name but couldn't escape. He had followed the trail of smoke rising from beyond Red Hollow, thinking it was a stray fire or maybe outlaws camped too close to his land. But as he drew closer, he saw it wasn't a fire meant for warmth, it was destruction. The wagon was overturned, its wheel still spinning lazily in the dirt, and two figures lay beside it. Cade's hand instinctively went to his Colt. The Wild West didn't forgive hesitation. He dismounted, his boots crunching against the gravel, his eyes narrowing at the scene ahead. The silence was thick, broken only by the crackle of burning wood. Then, from beneath the smoke, came a voice, soft, trembling, desperate. "I beg you, it hurts so bad." Cade froze. The words weren't meant for him, they were spoken like a prayer to anyone who might listen. He moved closer, his chest tightening as he saw her, a young woman, maybe 19, her dress torn and bloodied, pinned beneath the broken wheel. Her hair was tangled with dust and tears, her lips cracked from thirst. Next to her lay a man, likely her brother, his face pale, unmoving, eyes wide open toward the heavens. The air around them smelled of burnt leather and spilled whiskey. Cade knelt beside her, his hands trembling as he tried to lift the wheel. But it was too heavy. The wood had splintered deep into the ground, trapping her leg. "It's bad," she whispered, her breath hitching. "It's broken. Please." Cade swallowed hard. He'd seen pain before, rattlesnake bites, gunshot wounds, the kind of agony that made men beg for bullets. But this was different. There was something fragile in her voice, something that clawed at what little humanity he had left. "Hold on," he said softly, removing his hat. "I'll get you out." "No," she whimpered, her eyes wet and wide. "If you move it, I'll bleed out faster." Cade's jaw tightened. He could see the truth in her face, the bone was shattered, the flesh torn deep. She wouldn't last an hour even if he got her free. He looked toward the horizon. No one was coming. No help. No mercy. Just the whispering wind. The girl's hand reached for him, trembling. "Please," she said again, voice breaking. "It hurts so bad, make it stop." And that's when Cade felt his soul fracture. He turned his face away, the setting sun painting the land in red. His mind raced back to the war, men screaming for death as he walked away, pretending not to hear. He had promised himself he'd never take another life that didn't deserve it. But now, this wasn't about punishment. It was about mercy. The girl's tears shimmered in the firelight. "Please," she whispered again. "It'll be quick." Cade looked at her, really looked at her. He saw not a stranger, but every soul he had failed to save. Every memory he had buried deep under whiskey and silence. He holstered his gun, his hand shaking as he drew it again, slowly, reverently, like a man picking up a cross. The hammer clicked back, echoing louder than thunder in his ears. He knelt beside her, his voice cracking. "Close your eyes." She smiled faintly, her lips trembling. "Thank you." He hesitated. The desert waited with bated breath. His heart pounded so loud it drowned out the fire, the wind, even his thoughts. Then, he whispered, "It'll be quick." The gun roared once. The silence that followed was unbearable. Cade sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the girl's peaceful face. The tears he hadn't shed in years finally came, slow and silent. He had given her mercy, but it felt like he had killed what little good was left inside him. As night fell, the moon rose over the plains, pale and watchful. Cade buried her beside her brother, marking the grave with the only thing he had, a rusted horseshoe. He didn't know her name, but he whispered a prayer anyway. "May you find peace where this world never gave it." He climbed back onto Dust, the cold biting his skin. But before he could leave, something caught his eye, a glint of metal near the wreck. He dismounted and picked it up. It was a locket, dented from the crash. Inside was a picture, a man and woman smiling with a baby between them. Family. Hope. Life before death had stolen it all. Cade clenched it in his hand, then slipped it into his coat pocket. He wasn't sure why, maybe to remind himself that mercy sometimes came with pain. As he rode away, the wind whispered again, soft and haunting, like the echo of her voice. Thank you. By dawn, Cade reached his ranch. The place was quiet, the cattle grazing lazily in the early light. But something had changed inside him. He stood at the fence, staring at the horizon where the sun began to rise. For the first time in years, he felt the weight of every soul he had left behind. And somewhere deep in that weight, a spark of redemption flickered. Days passed. The locket never left his pocket. He stopped drinking. He started mending fences, not just the wooden kind, but the ones inside his heart. Folks in town noticed the change. They said the old rancher smiled again, even helped the preacher rebuild the chapel after the storm. But when the nights grew quiet, Cade still heard her voice in the wind. Not in pain anymore, but in peace. And though the world would never know what happened that night by the wagon wheel, Cade carried the truth in silence. Because sometimes the bravest thing a man can do in the Wild West isn't draw his gun in anger, but use it for mercy. Weeks passed, yet Cade couldn't escape the echo of her final whisper. Each night, the wind through the ranch sounded like her voice, soft, grateful, haunting. One evening, a storm rolled in, and through the rain he saw a figure by the fence, a young woman's silhouette, pale beneath lightning's flash. His chest tightened, his breath shallow. He stepped closer, heart pounding, but she was gone, only the locket glimmered on a post, untouched by mud or rain. Cade knelt, whispering, "You're free now." The thunder rolled like a distant prayer, and for the first time, he felt peace instead of guilt. At sunrise, Cade rode out to the graves beneath the lone oak. The wind was still, the land calm, as if the desert itself held its breath. He placed wildflowers over the mounds, the locket resting between them. As he turned to leave, he noticed fresh hoofprints nearby, small, delicate, recent. Someone had been there before him. A folded note lay pinned to the ground, "She forgave you." Cade's hands trembled as he read it, his eyes stinging. He looked toward the horizon, where the morning light broke through the clouds. For the first time, the burden lifted. Mercy had not cursed him, it had set them both free.